Admiral, radar shows that we have liberals approaching at 3 o'clock, and libertarians at 9 o'clock, and conservatives at 6 o'clock. They're coming from every angle, every viewpoint. Oh, it's Political Radar with your hosts, Rhonda and Elliot.
Hey, all you political junkies, welcome to Political Radar, the best 30 minutes of unscripted, uncensored political talk you will hear all day long. Right, Elliot?
Yes. And we have a distinguished guest today.
Yes, for episode 17, we have Noah Reif. He's running for State Assembly, the 88th District, which is currently held by John Macco. Hello, Noah.
Well, hello, Elliot, and hello, Rhonda. It's nice to be here. I was like looking around. I'm like, ooh, I'm hoping in the right suite. So, but thank you for finding me and bringing me here. So
we have to keep it a little bit underground so that the protesters
It's the Political Radar bunker.
It is the Political Radar bunker. You have that many protesters?
Yes.
Yes. Eyebrow raised, possibly.
Yeah. I'm the one with the protesters. I hear that everyone, or what was the Twitter comment that Rhonda's the nice one?
Oh, wow.
Right? Right? Is that right?
Pleasant.
Pleasant.
Okay.
I knew I got it wrong. Yeah.
Pleasant. The only time that's ever been used to describe it. Pleasant.
This is why it escaped me.
Anyway, so we're here to talk about some very important things happening in the state. And we had mentioned we would talk about public education, which, we all know is basically, I believe, being attacked. What do you want to talk about?
Yeah,
First of all, let's do this. Let's do this.
All right.
Let's give you some backstory on Noah, because I think it's important that people understand who you are, where you're from, why you're running. Can you give it those three things in a couple of minutes?
Yeah, of course. Well, as I've been mentioned, my name is Noah Reif, and I'm running for State Assembly in the 88th Assembly District as a Democrat. I am currently a student at the University of Green Bay, Wisconsin. I also have a degree from St. Norbert College, which obviously is in De Pere. Had a very, I've been in the community for about 5 years now, and those 5 years have been, kind of the years when everyone kind of comes into their own, and I really thank the community for being able to do that. It's been, whether it was through service at St. Norbert or having the opportunity to volunteer for political campaigns in the area over this last year. It's been an eye-opening experience, to say the least, and I've really come to love this area and come to love this community, and I'm just really excited to be given the opportunity to be a public servant in the area. That's something that I never anticipated, but I'm very glad the opportunity came up. As being a student, I'm very young. I'm 23 right now, so we're going up against kind of a system that's not set up for young students to necessarily have the best shot all the time. But I think, we're going through that. I think I've had a lot of support from people in the community. I've had support from friends, family, and it's just been overwhelming. And I guess it's kind of like one of the reasons I decided it was so important to run. At the end of the day, I had quite a few people. I worked on the Sanders campaign. They were the ones who I blame them for this whole situation, because they're like, you seem like a good person to throw into the fire. No, but it's, but
I agree.
Yeah. Thanks, Elliot. But they just
Sorry for the beeping. That was Facebook not honoring my little mute switch.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine.
Well, I'm going to bring you back, and I'm going to ask you. So you're running against John Macco.
Yes.
Okay. So he's been there. How long has he been there?
Macco, he's a one-term incumbent. So 2014, he was elected. Then he ran against Dan Robinson in that election. So
okay. So what do you think you need to do to get your message out there, to get the voters to listen to what you're saying, and and to motivate them to vote for you?
I think it's as simple. I think we overcomplicate things. We look at demographics, we look at targeting, and I think that's all very useful tools. But at the end of the day, it's about being visible in the community. It's showing that you're not going to get outworked. Like, I may be out fundraised by a 3-to-1 margin, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to be out there knocking on doors, making calls until midnight if I have to. It's the best way to do it is just simply be part of the community. And, I think sometimes we overcomplicate that with like messaging and branding, and we overcomplicate it with, we need to have this many voters in this district, and we have to have this ward go X number this way. At the end of the day, like, those are great targets, and obviously those are tools to help win a campaign and an election. But it's all about just good old-fashioned work and just being willing to go out there and put yourself out there fully for the public to see. And I think people are more receptive when you're that open.
So I think there's interesting things happening with public education. Let's go right for it and let's get specific.
Of course.
I'm sure you have a few ideas, but what comes to my mind is the voucher program. And the voucher program is a disaster. Let's give tax money to schools that basically don't perform. How is that okay with people? And how do you plan to talk about that and make sure people understand that that's not a direction that we need to go in Wisconsin?
I think the best way to approach voucher schools, of which I think you hit the nail on the head with that one. There is quite a few voucher school system. The system in the state is taking about $169 million out of taxpayers per year. There's different statistics on it, but that's a pretty common one. It's a significant amount, and I think when you look at the number of voucher students there are in the state of Wisconsin, which there's over about 3,000, I believe, if memory serves, and my research is backing me up on that. I think it's kind of, we talk about, conservatives talk about fiscal responsibility. They talk about being able to, it's about we're cutting the fat of government programs and all that kind of, I won't call it rhetoric, but that messaging. And then to go in and say, well, we're going to spend $169 million on 3,000 students, and the whole system itself is kind of been hijacked. Originally, the voucher school system was made for, there was a cap, there was a ceiling, and the ceiling was those living at a certain income, median household income, and generally it was around the poverty line, and it was for students who may not have the opportunity otherwise, specifically in Milwaukee, to explore other options, and they would be given a break, they'd be given a voucher. And since the administration, the current one in 2010, took over, they've raised the cap by 300%. So right now, if memory serves, it's like $77,000 is the median household income you need to. That's your cap. Like if you're under there at all, you can have a voucher. And it's kind of been hijacked to be more of like an experiment, less than a practical effect. That's just my kind of concern with it overall. And just a way you can go about that is you just have to look at the needs of the needs of public school students as well.
Okay. So education doesn't deserve competition.
Oh, no, I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying education doesn't deserve competition.
But only rich people should be able to be involved in that marketplace. If you're saying that the voucher system was originally created so that poor people could utilize
your words,
the program.
Not mine.
Okay. Well, you said Milwaukee. You said under a certain income level.
That's fair. That's fair. I'm giving you crap, Elliot. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I guess raising that income level so that people like, I don't know, I presume like the three of us would be able to be involved in choosing where our kids go to school. I'm struggling to understand why that is a problem.
I think it's more or less, we have school choice, open school choice in Wisconsin. We've had that since 1998. That is
just between the socialist schools, though.
The socialist schools? You mean the public schools?
Yes.
Public schools. Okay. I think if you want to get down to why I believe specifically that voucher schools, like from my heart of hearts, I believe that we should be putting more of our time and effort into public schools. You're looking at us very.
Have you ever gone to a public school?
I have. I was raised.
No, as a parent.
Oh, as a parent, I have not.
Have you volunteered at public schools?
I have. Okay. Not as a parent, but I have volunteered.
Yeah, they treat you like a criminal.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
I volunteer and I go to public schools. Yeah. I've never been treated like a criminal.
They have every door locked. They make you buzz in, show ID, and it's security theater, and it makes you feel like everything you're doing is questioned. And as a volunteer, it's insulting, and we're saying we need more involvement by the community. This is a public facility. It's a socialist facility that's locked down. It's not a public facility.
If I may, I think that's kind of a that's a false argument for what I'm.
You know what?
No,
I'm not. I'm going to record that today.
You're going to record that.
Yeah, because I hear this all the time that we need to be more involved. Parents need to be more involved. Go to a public school in Green Bay, and you are all but like, what are you doing here?
Well, I can
Why are you
tell you,
here?
as a public school mother,
That's
I appreciate
what school is that though?
Aldo
Yeah,
Leopold.
that is a unique little flower in the school.
Oh, we're going to
district.
talk about how unique that flower is, that's for sure. But what I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to let you know that I have gone through the background check happily. I would do it again. I was relieved after Sandy Hook that the doors were locked. I have no problem making, a little gesture with my finger and being buzzed in the door. It makes me feel good every day that I know those doors are locked. I get in that school and I do what I need to do. It's a safety measure. We obviously need it at this point. I think it's just something that I think parents do appreciate. I have really not heard anything on the contrary. I'll just tell you that as a public
Because
school
people
parent,
are embarrassed to say that. They're embarrassed to say,
No,
I don't want to
trust
have
me,
a
they're not
background
embarrassed
check.
to say that.
Well, then you've heard it.
Anyway, no, they're not embarrassed to say anything. If they need to say it, it's said. So let's get back to the public education. I think the voucher program, what the problem I think I have with this. So the last I checked, churches are still not paying taxes, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Correct. Okay.
Correct.
So where is this money coming from for the voucher program? What was the number you had said?
I can give you. I've seen anywhere from 169 to 191 million per year. I've seen statistics that look anywhere from 1.1 billion to 800 million of taxpayer money over the next, I believe it's 7-8 years that are going.
And these are
to this
parochial
program.
schools. These are religious-based parochial schools. The vouchers are used for, correct?
Yes, and it's a private
Let's
school
start
in
a
general,
school.
so
Let's start a school.
Okay, just let me make my point.
Well, you know
Hang
what?
on.
I get
wanna ask about that.
extremely frustrated about Democrats saying, "Well, you have every right to go grab some of that money, that delicious government money too. Why don't you do that? Why are you clamoring for cuts?" Well, this is why Republicans and libertarians are talking out of both sides of their mouths. It's like, well, I would like to spend some of my tax dollars, but yes, I would also like it to be cut because we're spending too much. Do I want it to go to religious schools? No, but Democrats are not opening up art schools. And why aren't they? They should be. So framing it as just a religious thing, well, yeah, they're religious right now because the only people interested in having an actual choice seem to be crazy fundamental Christian people. Why aren't there art schools, science schools, math schools, music schools?
if I may get my word count over 500 for this entire segment.
Like you.
But what
Well,
else?
I'm outgunned.
No, that's fine. I understand. Like, I come from Southeast Wisconsin, where the fact that we still fly Confederate flags in my high school sometimes, we have to have conversations about that. Like, that's the community I grew up in. I grew up in a very conservative community. I went to and like to address concerns about private school vouchers in general. My family, I grew up in the Wells in the Missouri Synod. I'm a Lutheran. I'm from that tradition. I went to parochial school my first 9 years. I went to public high school for the next 4. I went to a private university for the next 4, and now I'm going to a public university. So when it comes to someone who understands what it's like to be within both systems, to see both sides of that issue, I feel like I'm uniquely qualified in that. Not perhaps as a parent, but as someone who's lived that, I am well versed in that, and I will. But that doesn't, like, just because I am from like an originally parochial school, my parents made sacrifices to send me there. They made the sacrifices that were necessary, but they didn't believe that it was something that their taxpayer money should foot the bill for, because at the end of the day, that was a choice. That was a legitimate choice to send me where I was sent, and my choice to go there. So at the end of the day, if I would have done public school, private school.
So they should pay for both.
I'm saying they should I'm saying taxpayer money should be going to something that benefits the entire public.
Well, and especially let's talk about the special needs children that cannot be served with a voucher. Right now, they're going to, I think, allocate a certain amount in the Milwaukee school district for special needs students to go to school at a voucher school, at a parochial school. You'll get a voucher, but you actually have to have some sort of plan in place for yourself. So that means you have to, you get a voucher, but as a special needs student, to get into that school, you need to have someone coming in to help you, which obviously you need to be paying for that yourself, as well as you have to have been denied to other schools first. So we are basically excluding special needs students with this voucher program. That's the truth, and that's wrong.
Well, at the end of the day, I mean, we talked about my experiences with it. We talked about what I believe with it, but at the core of my identity, why I believe that you should be investing in public education with taxpayer money versus these voucher programs is, simply put, it's an exclusionary system. There's a certain number of people who go to it, a certain number of people who can qualify for it, but everyone's qualified for public education. So we should be putting, like, when you're putting taxpayer money into that, it should be going to our public schools where the majority of our students are. But I think when it comes down to it, for me, you just look at the voucher program in general, the accountability may not be there. The accountability, they consistently test lower. They are testing at lower reading and math levels than taking studies where you compare MPS students versus voucher students in the Milwaukee area, and you're looking at them who are consistently testing lower, and then you applied statewide, and it's the same thing. They're consistently testing lower in math and reading from 3rd grade to 10th grade. And then you're saying, well, taxpayers, you need to foot the basically $200 million a year bill for our failing voucher schools. And that's not an indictment of the teachers, of the students, but it's an indictment of the system. And you can't expect taxpayers to necessarily pay for education that is not up to the standards of public education that everyone's paying for, that
as
everyone
well as
has
the
access
teachers
to.
who don't have to go through any background checks. They really aren't instructed to do that.
I don't know what a background check has to do with the quality of a teacher, but the education level of our public schools is actually pretty horrible.
But then you're saying that voucher schools aren't even living up to that potential.
No, but I'm going to steal a note out of Rhonda's book here, and I'm going to say, well, we got to try something. So what would you like us to try instead? Because the public schools are a disaster, and I know lots of great public school teachers, but I also know some bad ones. And we're not doing anything about it. We're not doing anything. And as far as something that affects everyone, boy, education's a way bigger deal than guns.
Right.
We're not doing anything about it.
No, I agree. I agree.
We want to background check parents before they can come in to see their own children. That is BS. That is nonsense, and it's ridiculous.
In my opinion, that's unfortunately the world you live in. When you live in a nation,
I live in America where we have freedom and bravery. So no,
I'm going to let that slide. I'm going to just let you kind of do. I'm going to let you
have a song about it.
I know we do. I know we do. But
and we wrote it down. We have a Bill of Rights.
I know we do.
Public education is not in there, and you want to lock people out of the socialist schools, and I do not agree with that. I do not agree with that.
Well, I think if you took a poll, I believe more parents would be happy that that's happening.
You know what? Most parents would like their kids to be locked up and never leave their home, but that is not realistic, and it's not America.
Okay. Can we go back to the point that you had made that, we need to try something? So do you believe that taking resources out of something that you believe isn't working?
We tried putting more money in and that didn't work. So we have to do something.
When it comes to...
I'm open.
Well, no, I know you are. And I know you're showing you're open. And to kind of address... I'm going to try and address your whole, your concerns in one succinct point. Unfortunately, right now, just the nation that we are kind of living in, as in the way things have been going the last 5-10 years, whether it be an escalation in domestic terrorism, whether it be mass gun violence, whatever it might be, children are simply, that was the off limits. You didn't go in. People, when they targeted people, schools weren't the place it was done. But then Columbine changed that, Virginia Tech changed that, Sandy Hook truly changed that. And now we live in a world in this country where people don't feel safe. So when it comes to having some security checks, I can be willing to bend on that and accept that might be necessary to make sure my future child, who I will love very dearly and put my whole life into, is safe.
You know that we are far safer than we've ever been. Far safer.
But it's also the thought. It's the psychological.
Children died of childhood diseases. We live in this fairyland of fear. Kids don't die like it makes national headlines when kids die.
Right.
It's a big deal. That wasn't always the case.
I know it wasn't always the case,
And
but to address your concern specifically about that is why those checks exist currently. But to go on to the point of like why are like our public schools failing? We need to try something. So you want to pump money into a system that is basically your taxpayer money to state money that could have gone to any number of other projects to repair roads, to repair that we could have invested in national parks again, so we didn't have to cut funding for them.
But education's important, right?
Well, yes, I'm saying
we
education.
Have to try something.
Yes,
So
we have to try something,
what do
but the voucher system isn't the way. I think if you look at how.
Okay, so you sound like a Republican saying, "Well, you're just saying no."
No.
So what?
Because you're not letting me get to my point at the end of the day.
Okay, I just want to keep you on track.
No, I got you. But I'm also giving you the rationale behind why I'm saying what I'm saying too. So just so you know, I'm not trying to attack you on that or just say no. Employers, if you want to look at education as like a roadway to success, whether that be critical thinking, whether that be employment, and let's just look at employment because that's something we can all agree on. Like employment's important. You want to be a productive member of society who can put money back, reinvest in the community. Correct? Could we? I think that's something we could agree on. Correct?
Yes, I agree.
I'm just
making
sure.
We agree on almost everything.
I know.
And it might sound like I'm giving you a hard time.
No.
But
No,
I think I'm giving you a pretty easy time compared to what an opponent would give you.
No, I'm not disputing that either. So I'm glad but these are conversations we do need to have. And when I get I get very passionate about because I believe very deeply in it. People who are looking to hire, they're not looking for cheap, disposable labor. The good jobs that are if you look in Massachusetts and states that are doing very well, that have bounced back very well from the economic recession, they're looking for intelligent, highly skilled, educated workforces. That's what they're looking for. And you're not going to get that by gutting public education and taking away research opportunities and taking away and doing tuition freezes, but at the same time also kind of eliminating tenure for professors and eliminating staff. So it's actually students have to be in longer. There's a reason I went from a four-year university with a pretty sterling reputation where I was not exactly, I was a performance major. I did music. I was an arts major. There's a reason why people have to stay in college longer. There's a reason why when they get out of these public institutions, because they've had to go the extra year because there isn't the staff, they have more student debt, and and there's a reason why you're buying houses later. You're not able to invest into luxuries. I mean, luxuries, if you call owning a car and owning a house a luxury, which I guess you could call it that, but you're seeing that kind of. It goes, people have to wait longer and longer and longer and longer in order to do that. And that's
because the value of the education is getting poorer and poorer.
Because you're not investing in because you're not investing in the education from the get-go. Yes, of course something's going to be valued.
Okay, so we're mixing K-12 and college. So let's talk about college for just a second.
Sure.
Because I'm way more passionate about the other stuff, but
yeah, of course.
the whole college thing is a disaster because they're not turning out students with the skills that they need, but they're also not turning away any students. So there's no lack of funding for these schools. They're full.
Well, I don't dispute that the student loan program I don't dispute that student loan. I think you should be able to refinance your student loan like you will any other loan. I truly believe that. But
I don't think our federal government should be giving loans. I think that's crazy talk. The whole thing is insane.
So I know we're getting off track again.
Well, it creates this is the whole Bernie Sanders thing, right? Where education is free, it becomes valueless. As soon as something is free, it is valueless.
I think you're equating value to monetary, and that's not necessarily how I see.
Well,
that's not how I look at the value.
As we've made it possible for more students to go to college, the value of a college education has diminished
because we haven't invested back into them at a rate that's similar.
I don't understand how that.
I'm saying that when you have more and more people who need to go to college, simply put, just to get a career after college, to have a good paying job,
because college is diminished in value.
It's diminished in value because of course it's going to...
There are lots of jobs available, and you said that students don't graduate with the skills necessary.
They don't graduate with the skills necessary because we're not investing. Let's just use this state as an example.
We only need so many lawyers. We're graduating attorneys and business majors, and there aren't jobs for those. Students aren't going into fields they need. but we're giving them free student loans, and we're saddling them with debt. We're not questioning things. We're not investing in technical programs properly. So,
that's also
to a point, I agree with you, but I mean, that's just not where things are at because there aren't the students to support it. There aren't students going into computer science at UWGB. They're going into business programs that are BS, and then they graduate and they go work at Starbucks.
All right. Noah, I have a question for you, and I want you to see if you can
I guess
address
we're done with that.
We are.
No, you're fine.
It's a circle. So let's talk about something that I know some listeners have actually asked me to ask you. People that are listening to the podcast, they want to know. So,
well, they just got me and Elliot going around the bush for 20 minutes.
Yeah,
so I'm sorry, listeners. Sorry
that's
about
okay.
that.
They want to know. So there's a program that is out in the public school system right now in Green Bay. Specifically at my school, Aldo Leopold in Green Bay, the middle schoolers were sent home with an abstinent packet. Okay, so I think this is a surprise to a lot of people. They don't understand where this is coming from, and what this packet is basically saying. There is nothing in here. It's sexual education, but there's nothing in here about birth control. It's absolutely 100% about abstinence. Now, if you look at where this comes from, it's a website out of Florida called It's Great to Wait. Okay, so this is, to me, religious propaganda that is being brought into a public school. People are pretty fired up about this. The parent that actually let me see this, my daughter is not in middle school. She's in elementary school, but she asked me to talk about this and let people know that this is something that is circulating throughout the public school system in Green Bay. Why is this? And to me, again, this is religion pushing its propaganda. Religion, churches, they don't pay taxes for these schools, yet we are allowed to have this in there. Now, I am not saying that abstinence is not an option. Why aren't we talking about birth control? If we're going to talk about sex, we should be talking about birth control. And there is absolutely nothing in this packet that was sent to a public school health class.
Right.
Can you tell me where this is coming from? Because people want to know.
I think you're seeing very much a kind of push from we talk about our country, our state being very separate from religion. We talk about state, we talk about government, religion. They don't interfere with each other. That's simply never been the case. Like it's a nice thing to say, but when you look at how our nation was founded, it's founded by religious refugees, and some of that's going to make it in. And Christianity is certainly the most numerous, the most populous religion, and in the country and in this area too. And so I think it's natural that you're going to see that kind of I'm going to call it literature into your school systems.
I'd like to see some of the tax money from the churches into the school systems.
I mean,
along with the abstinence.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. I'm saying that's why I think it's happening. I think my personal belief is you have to have a standardized health education and sex education program, because we can talk. I hope that's something we can all agree on, is that you can't arm teenagers with the just wait, program, because I'm a teenager. I was a teenager 3 years ago. I don't, that's not something that really computes. And instead of offering very, hey, just, it doesn't have to be anything scary, and we've kind of made sex and sex education into a taboo. We just need to remove that. We just have to, and that starts through education. That starts with simply, hey, this is, when you start sexual education and you do it from you don't obviously go full-blown sex education when you're 5, but you start talking the matters of consent. You can start helping people along with that from a younger age. And by the time you get to high school education, you can have a standardized program that's this is the full sex education.
Well, right
program.
now in the middle school in Green Bay, at my school, which is Aldo Leopold, I'm not happy about this at all, by the way.
Okay, devil's advocate.
Oh, of course.
This is what they're doing, though.
No,
There's nothing in here
just
about
kidding.
birth control.
Just kidding.
By the way,
I totally 1,000% agree with Rhonda, but I didn't want to,
No, you're fine.
let you completely off the hook. No,
No,
it's BS.
please.
If we're going to have socialist schools, they need to provide full information. Much like Adam said in our last episode, transparency, right? We need to have transparency. We can't lie to our children and pretend like these things don't exist. We can't have them bury their heads in the sand.
Oh, I completely agree.
We need them to know.
or if you want to push your agenda, you're going to put some tax money into that.
Yes,
I do agree
and
with
that
that.
is BS. And I wouldn't stop at churches. I think all nonprofits should pay taxes. Then guess what? Our taxes could be a lot simpler because nobody has to prove that they're whatever, a
NPO.
nonprofit. Yep. That's my soapbox. Box. That's it.
No, you're fine. You're fine. No, go for it. Like we've all been on the soapbox a couple times.
So is there some sort of, I mean, because
I think you'd be surprised.
You and I were talking before this. Is there some sort of, where is this coming from? I feel like I've read
fear.
somewhere.
It's coming from fear. It's the same people that want to lock our schools.
That's vague. I want to know, where is this coming from? Literally, where is this coming from? This has to be coming from some sort of outside agenda. Where is this coming from? Like, where is it? Why is it in the school? Why is this in my public school?
It's in your public school simply. It's like any form of literature that is religious in nature. It's coming from a group that this is how they see human reproduction. This is the agenda they're going to push. And at the end of the day, I think Elliot hit it. It's coming from a place of fear because they see, and to be honest, I don't know the exact specifics because I'm sure they have a lobbyist who's able to put this through, and they have money going into their form of an education. And this is what this is our action committee. This is what we're going to do. We're going to put this literature out. Like, that's how it's going to work at the end of the day. But that's motivated primarily by fear. I don't know the exact specifics because, you were talking a little bit about it, and that was it didn't shock me, but at this point, it's,
you know what? This is the problem, the fundamental problem with socialist schools, though. Lowest common denominator. The reason that this slips through is because they make a calculated decision. We're going to piss off fewer people by advocating abstinence than by advocating birth control.
Well, I think
they made a calculated decision. The district did that.
No,
some level that happened.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Either somebody overstepped and went beyond their oversight, or the oversight.
And the
didn't
district
happen.
needs to get a set of balls, and they need to actually talk to the people that this is coming from, and the churches, and ask them, you know what, you want us to put this into our curriculum? Guess what? Yeah. You're going to give us some money. Yeah, because we could use some money right now.
No, I don't disagree, and we have some obviously philosophical differences about how we view education and competition in education, Elliot.
Well, what we have isn't working.
Well,
you
think
it
fair.
is.
No.
So, yes.
No, I'm not saying that what we have right now is working, but I think we could do better at the system that we had, say, 6 years ago when we had more money in the system. But let's not get back in the weeds on that one. But
it was still a disaster 6 years ago.
I mean, agree to disagree sometimes. Well, I think we should just have a podcast of Elliot and I just screaming, not screaming, but politely whispering loudly at each other some of the...
I think we should rename the show.
Politely whispering loudly at each other.
So to wrap up the point about this,
sorry, I keep
and the people that are listening, and they really are concerned about this. Right. There are parents out there at the public school that I go to, and now maybe this will bring awareness. Mm-hmm. Check out your health, your student's health packet.
Yeah.
Is there an abstinence packet in there? Why is that okay at a public school? What do you think you could do as a legislator to make sure that this doesn't continue to happen? That's what I want to know, and that's what other parents want to know.
Of course. Again, the best for parents right now, the best thing to do is write your legislator, write your city council, go to your school board.
School board.
Yeah, there's all these levels, and the school board at this case is the one to go to. Go to them and say, I've had enough of this. I want facts in my child's, health education class, and say, I want facts, and I'm not okay with this. It's just when you're vocal and you're a very vocal segment, and that it's an active segment too, they're going to have to acknowledge that. And if they ignore it, then when elections come up and when appointments come up, they know who to put in. It's all about education for who's helping to run your schools too.
Will we ever see a day when churches pay taxes?
I don't think so.
Why is that okay?
Why is it okay for other nonprofits?
I mean, I will agree with that. I come from a very religious community. I'm not what I would call I don't necessarily identify with what I grew up as, but I believe that you should be able to express your spirituality and your faith as long as it's not harming another human being directly. You shouldn't have to be taxed for finding spirituality. But when you try and push it on someone else, say I'm pushing my specific form of abstinence-only education into the public schools, I would like
to see those big mega churches, though, those humongous mega churches. Can we bring them down a notch? And can some of that money go towards my public school that is receiving your propaganda? That is, I think, what.
And I go to the
issue.
Church of Apple. I believe in the gospel of Steve Jobs, and I think that Apple should be tax-free. There's really no good rationalization for this. No. People can find spirituality by staring at a wall or meditating. That doesn't mean that they should be tax free. I totally agree with that. And they become almost like a tax shelter because they're building up these churches with things that are sort of not religious. They're pushing legislation, like pushing propaganda into our school district. I think it's horrendous.
I don't disagree with that either. I
think the best action we could take is to contact the school principals.
We've already contacted her, and she's not responding, by the way.
Well, she's got a lot of free time, and most of the public school, at least the high schools, they all make over $100,000 a year plus benefits, and they have most of the summer to do stuff like talk to parents. So I think that they got some free time. I think we should hit them up.
I think that there needs to be an answer to this, and I hope if you are elected, and I hope you are, that you're able to take care of this because this is not acceptable.
Well, I don't disagree. I think we've talked. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, we talk all the time about how we don't want our state legislators to step on local decisions. This was a local decision. Right?
We don't know that though. It was a local decision.
Was this pushed from the state?
I'm not sure about this, but I have thoughts that maybe it's entirely possible that the school received funding if they were able to take this on.
Okay.
But no one's answered me because the principal won't answer and nobody will say anything. The chain of command is
followed in these state socialist institutions, right? So we should start with the principal, get an answer, and then go up the chain.
That would be great to get an answer from the principal.
Otherwise, maybe we should just call Obama and ask him. Like, I don't know where this happens.
To get us back to where we can have a definitive answer on this, the best thing to do is just, again, contact the school board, contact the administrators. If they're not being receptive, just go that one step up in the chain of command until you get that answer. Like
call for their ouster if they're not responsive. That's their job.
I mean, it's their job, and if they're not going to there's a difference between, people being, educators who are being like threatened to oust because they taught something that's a proven fact that people are freaked out about. But when you have something like this,
that's what they did though. That's what this is. It's the same thing.
Well,
that's why they don't want to talk about it, right?
I mean,
controversial thing.
It's controversial. I don't dispute that, but this is a little more, in my opinion. It's necessary that we got to go that as a district and as a school district and as a community, we have to but we have to be open and say, we want sexual education, we want health education to be to a certain standard, and this simply put does not meet the standard. And at the end of the day, just make sure you do it, go through the proper channels, and if they're not responding, then from there you just have to make yourself even more vocal, and you just have to, if you have to, not be radical, but be drastic in some of that. Sometimes people don't understand how much this is important. They don't understand that, for parents, this is important. It might not fit their idea. This might be something that, say, I don't know who it is, but it fit their ideological, what they believe, and they want to push it. Well, push back and say, hey, you're a public servant. Help all of us. Don't just push your own ideology.
They're also talking about in this packet, by the way, and this will wrap up this part of it. Mm-hmm. They talk about, is it wrong to live with someone before marriage? I mean, this is in my public school. This is so wrong.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree.
And I am so disgusted that this is out there in at my school. And I think, and I hope that anyone that's listening that is going to Aldo Leopold School reaches out to the administration and asks, when is this going to be taken out? Why was it there in the first place?
Right. No, I don't.
That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, so we're pretty much out of time, and you picked education. That's a hot button thing for me.
No,
I think
fine.
For Rhonda, I think we, in defense of the socialist schools, and I say that's tongue in cheek. We're very passionate about it. And I come from a place of wanting to be involved.
Right. Right.
So if you have any closing remarks, including you're running for office, when people should vote, all that. Go.
Yeah. Well, I want to say again, thank you for having me on. These are the conversations we need to have. They can be knocked down, they can be dragged through the mud, they can be frustrating, but they're conversations that need to be had. And I think that's what's when I started listening, I'm like, oh, political radar, I don't really know what that is. But I listened, and this is a podcast that is, and a broadcast for that matter, that's very, very, it's very good at putting candidates on the spot, and I appreciate that. I personally appreciate being challenged on a lot of my beliefs because you can live in an echo chamber as a candidate, and we have to strive not to do that. But as for me, like, again, I'm running for the 88th State Assembly District. I'm running against John Macco. I'm an unopposed Democrat but there's no primary for me or for John Macco. You can vote for me, and you can get out and vote on November 8th, which is obviously National Election Day. That'll be presidential. That'll be big ticket day. So
it's coming up really fast.
Yeah, it's terrifyingly fast for me. But
if people want to find out more about you, they should go there online.
If you can just check us out at social media at Reif for Assembly. We're going to have a really great website up in the next day or so. So by the time this airs, actually, it'll be up. So just go to reif4wisconsin.com. Feel free to check us out. If you're interested in donations, you can do that. There will be a link to donate there.
Thanks for coming on.
This was one of your first media appearances.
Yes, it was.
I think you did fine.
Yeah. Well, I give myself a little less than that. Like, I go on the.
I wouldn't want to face us.
No, I want to come back though. Like, this is a great show. I want to come back at some point and revisit some topics that I wish we could have gotten to. Like, there's a lot. It's more than just education for me. It's just looking at how we're treating workers. It's how we're treating our environment. It's how we're treating students. It's how we're treating. It's not a one-trick pony campaign like we got on education, which is obviously a hot-button topic, as you indicated, and it's something that I'd love to come back on, and I'd love to have some more time here. I wish we could have had 3 more hours. You guys would have hated me by then, but yeah,
Not me.
Doubt that. So you can get show notes for this politicalradar.com/17. Thank you, Noah, for coming on and being in the hot seat. I think you did great.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. And again, thank you for putting the pressure.
And I'm anxious to read all the angry Facebook comments calling me out for how mean I was to you.
Well, don't worry.
I didn't let you
No.
talk.
I'm waiting. I'm waiting for the Facebook comments. This guy has no idea what he's talking about. But so it's again, thank you. It was a great experience, and I'm looking forward to listening to the show and then cringing when I hear myself talk. But I'm also.
You're 23. You know what? Yeah. When I was 23, I certainly was not running for office.
Yeah.
So kudos to you.
No, thank you for doing that.
Well, thank you. Well, it means a lot. So thank you guys for having me.
If you enjoyed this episode of Political Radar, please share it with your friends on Facebook and Twitter. Even better, submit a show review to iTunes or Stitcher. To listen to other episodes of Political Radar, please visit politicalradar.com/episodes. To support our podcast, please visit our sponsors who make the show possible. You can do this by visiting politicalradar.com/sponsors.
Thanks for listening to Political Radar. To ensure that you never miss an episode, subscribe on iTunes or your favorite podcast app. To stay up to date, visit politicalradar.com or connect with us on Facebook or Twitter.
This episode of Political Radar is brought to you by ReleaseWire. ReleaseWire is a powerful media engagement service connecting businesses to journalists and bloggers. If you need to get the word out about your business, ReleaseWire is an effective and affordable way to reach journalists and bloggers who are truly interested. And we have a special offer for you today. Submit your first on-demand press release with ReleaseWire and save 25% by entering the discount code PoliticalRadar. That's Political Radar. ReleaseWire, from release to results.
Political Radar is a proud member of the Newsmakers Podcast Network, an ever-growing network of podcasts covering a wide range of topics. Check them out at npcn.tv.